A Fox News alert. The long-awaited border security bill is done. Already facing backlash in some sectors as the text claims there is no amnesty for anyone already here. These are just some of the highlights. 50,000 new visas per year for 5 years. $650 million let over from the Trump years to build the wall. They'll start finishing, get about 50 miles. Increase ICE funds and detention capacity to 50,000. Shut down authority after an average of 5,000 encounters a day.
There's also $250 million in migrant reparations. What are migrant reparations? Biden's going to take our tax dollars and pay the countries that the migrants claim they're too scared to live in. So if Biden decides to deport a migrant, which he won't and which he hasn't ever, he's setting aside money to reintegrate the migrants back into their home countries. How does Ecuador go about reintegrating a man born and raised in Ecuador? They don't. They just steal our money and claim the reintegration is going muy bueno and keep sending more migrants to keep the migrant reparations flowing. I asked the primetime producers, is there anything in this border security bill that dismantles the cartels? There's only $25 million. Democrats are giving the DEA just $25 million to fight the cartels. Lawyers are getting $400 million. Tackling the cartels, $25 million. This is how you know they aren't serious. So we keep hearing about this 5,000 migrants a day and the border automatically closes. Not true. If the Border Patrol averages 5,000 migrant encounters for a week straight, we're not talking about the gotaways, they'll say they'll close the border for a little while, but they don't want you to know about the loopholes. They actually never close the border. Migrants will still be processed into the country at ports of entry, meaning the cartels just funnel them to the ports of entry. What about the rest of the border? That's shut down, right? No. Migrants can still show up anywhere along the border, and as long as they claim it's an emergency, they have to be let in. So even when the border is shut down, migrants can still come in.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about the so-called bipartisan bill to secure the border, except it doesn't actually secure the border. It actually really is more about sending aid overseas to Ukraine and Israel, $118 billion worth of spending, okay, $90 billion of which is going overseas. There's not really that much that is actually being used to secure the border over here in the United States. But hey, you know, don't let the facts get in the way of the narrative from the establishment, the Republicans and Democrats that have negotiated this terrible deal that I think Republicans are getting on board with because they're more desperate to send money to Ukraine and Israel than they are to actually secure the border, okay? Because the text of the bill has been released, okay? And you don't have the things that I feel like are mandatory for the GOP to get on board with a bill like this. Like, for example, mass deportations. That's not there. They're granting work permits to the illegals that are already here, okay? AKA giving the Democrat-run cities what they've been begging for over a year now, which is to allow the illegals to work so that they can go ahead and quickly replace the citizens in those cities, the taxpayers in those cities, go ahead and take their jobs because they're going to be much cheaper labor for the businesses that are literally begging for the illegals to be able to work, okay? They funneled the illegals into so-called black and brown neighborhoods so that they can drive down wages and go ahead and start taking some jobs. Furthermore, it normalizes illegal immigration by allowing 5,000 people to come into the country before actually shutting down the border, which, you know, I think is up for debate whether or not that provision that shuts down the border after 5,000 crossings on average for 7 days straight actually does that, considering how there's always some exceptions to the rule, okay? I personally think that we should be turning away everybody that comes to the border, regardless of why they're coming to the border. Even if they're seeking asylum, they should wait and try to seek asylum in another country, which is something that, you know, we would have gotten if the Republicans would actually market their own legislation, which is HR 2 the Secure the Border Act, something that, again, Republicans seem to be afraid of marketing their own solutions that make sense. But again, that's neither here nor there. Regardless, President Trump has come out and given his opinion on this bill that seems to be on the verge of falling apart in the Senate. And you already have House Republicans saying that it is a non-starter if it passes the Senate and gets to the House. Take a look.
Mr. President, good to have you back.
Thank you.
Good to see you again. I want to jump right into it. Let's start with immigration. We see the text of this bill last night, which I just think blew a lot of minds. What is this thing? I mean, if 5,000 is now the appropriate limit, anything under 5,000, which is 1.8 million a year, and you have Republicans itching to sign off on this in the Senate. I mean,
well, it's hard to believe because I think it probably would mean the end of their career. This is a Democrat trap. It's a trap for Republicans that would be so stupid, so foolish to sign a bill like this. This bill can't be signed. And it's not only that, it's massive amounts of money going out of town, as we say, going out of town, billions and billions and billions of dollars. And it's so bad on the border. I've never seen anything like it. Actually, it's one of the worst, one of the dumbest bills I've ever seen. I think it's dead, totally dead at the House. I think they have almost unanimous support. But I can't imagine anybody wanting to approve this bill.
Well, I don't understand how you could. I mean, if you're a Republican in the Senate, and that's where it has at least, I think, a few names that are going to back it, how do you let them go 3 years with what they've done and then just give them this lifeline? You know, this could really help them on this issue, you know, in this next election.
Well,
how do you do that?
They've been doing that by giving billions and trillions of dollars away also. Yeah. This is not that uncommon in the Senate.
Yeah, it's not that uncommon, okay? Because I really believe that Republicans, the ones in the Senate that are on board with this bill, first and foremost, they don't want to close the border, right? I'm keeping it 100, which a lot of Republicans actually really don't want to close the border. Remember, this is the same party that fought Trump tooth and nail over the border wall, right? This is the same party that failed to solve this issue permanently under the Trump administration, so we didn't have to get to this point where a Democrat could just come in and to repeal Trump's policies or just choose not to follow them, really, because Trump's policies were a Band-Aid, okay, because he was using executive orders, okay? So Republicans, they should have did their damn job when Trump was in office and passed legislation to permanently solve the problem, aka take away discretion from the executive branch in regards to their ability to decide how they want to enforce the laws, which is the main problem right now, okay? Biden has too much discretion on how to enforce the law, and now this has put us in this situation, okay? No executive should have this much authority in regards to how to enforce the laws at the border, okay? That's the problem, okay? So, with that being said, you know, a lot of Republicans, again, they don't really want to close the border, okay? This is why they're on board with this bill that doesn't close the border. And what they really want, more so than anything, is to continue to send money overseas, okay? That's why a majority of this bill is composed of money going to Ukraine, going to Israel, going to Taiwan. And it is an America last bill because America literally comes last in the bill in regards to funding. And if you listen to Democrats like Chuck Schumer, if you don't agree with this America Last agenda, then essentially you want to send your sons and daughters overseas to fight a war for Ukraine. This is what Chuck Schumer went on MSNBC and said. If you don't vote for this bill, if you don't support this bill, then you want the U.S. to fight a war in Ukraine. Take a look.
You've said that you worked very closely with Leader McConnell on this bill. Now that we see what's in it, seems to be as bipartisan as it gets. Why wouldn't both sides really want this to go through?
Well, it's a great question, Mika. Look, it took a long time, 4 months of arduous negotiations. They fell off the tracks a whole bunch of times. I had to be on the phone even at midnight saying we've got to keep going. Why? We're at a turning point in America. This bill is crucial, and history will look back on it and say, did America fail itself? Why is it crucial? Well, if we don't aid Ukraine, Putin will walk all over Ukraine. We will lose the war, and we could be fighting in Eastern Europe in a NATO ally in a few years. Americans won't like that. If we don't help Israel defend itself against Hamas, that perpetual war will go on and on and on. If we don't help humanitarian aid to the starving Palestinians in Gaza, Hundreds of thousands could starve. And the border, everyone has said it's chaos. A speaker, you just saw Speaker Johnson, he said it's chaos, we have to do something legislative a few months ago. But what has happened, in answer your question, so this is crucial for America. It's a turning point. History is going to look over our shoulders and say, did we rise to the occasion? To his credit, Mitch McConnell did. But too many Republicans, including Speaker Johnson, are just scared to death of Donald Trump. Donald Trump has said he wants chaos. Donald Trump has said, well, wait till I become president. That'll take at least a year. Ukraine could be gone. The border will get much worse. War in the Middle East will get worse, maybe bringing us into it. He's doing it all for political reasons. And let me just say, will senators, the crucial question, the $64,000 question, the majority of Republican senators know this bill is the right thing to do. It's a compromise. I don't like everything in it. Neither does McConnell. But it's a compromise. That's the only way you get things important done in the Senate. We proved that 2 years ago in our bipartisan legislation. And will the senators drown out the political noise from Trump and his minions and do the right thing for America? It's a crucial question. History is looking down on every one of us right now.
Yeah, so you see now, you heard that. Okay, Chuck Schumer, Democrat, wants to send your sons and daughters to go fight a war on behalf of Ukraine against Russia if you don't hand over $118 billion in taxpayer funds to our politicians to go send overseas to other people. Again, this is absolutely incredible, right? Absolutely incredible stuff. Because the reality of the situation is that we're not getting a secure border, which was the original agreement, right, to secure the border in exchange for sending money overseas, which I don't think we should really be sending money overseas at all, really. I mean, I think that we should just secure the border and not send money overseas. But we're not getting what we agreed to. But yet, again, they want to send $90 million overseas. Or else, again, they're going to send your sons and daughters to fight a war on behalf of a country that, regardless of the funding that we've given them so far, which is over $100 billion, even the mainstream liberal media has admitted that, hey, they ain't winning, right? At the very least, they're not winning. Okay, you have Ukrainian lives being lost because the United States wants to stick it to Putin and to deplete the Russian military, right? They see it as a way of sacrificing Ukrainians to stick it to Russia instead of trying to come to a peace agreement where, you know, both sides can, you know, be happy, hopefully, okay, and we stop sending money overseas to fight these wars, okay? That's not what they want, and that's why they are freaking out, because we may find out sooner rather than later what Putin actually wants, right? Because they're claiming that Putin wants to take over all of Ukraine. He wants to take over Poland. He wants to take over and invade NATO. This is what they're saying. But we're going to find out soon what Putin actually wants, because Tucker Carlson is in Russia to allegedly interview Putin. And CNN and liberals are outraged by this. Take a look.
A massive shakeup in Kyiv coming as Putin is trying to court the MAGA GOP in the United States. In fact, one of the leaders of the MAGA GOP is in Moscow tonight. It's the man you see here with the MAGA leader Donald Trump, Tucker Carlson. Possibly there in Moscow to interview Putin. Definitely there as a Putin-supporting celebrity. He charged his phone, although they're knowing the details about the fact that it was during USB port may give him reason to think twice about all of this. But look at them talking about him like a celebrity. Everything he does on camera, breathlessly repeated. Now, it is unclear if an interview between Putin and Carlson will take place, but if it does, it gives Putin a chance to sit down with a big supporter.
It might be worth asking yourself, since it is getting pretty serious, what is this really about? Why do I hate Putin so much? Has Putin ever called me a racist? Has he threatened to get me fired for disagreeing with him? Does he eat dogs? These are fair questions, and the answer to all of them is no. Vladimir Putin didn't do any of that.
I'll actually always remember watching that clip. I was standing in Ukraine 48 hours before the war began there. Well, Carlson then stood by Putin consistently all the way through. And that is why he can go to Moscow now without any fear of being summarily imprisoned. He's a hero. This was Putin's mouthpiece in the United States, somebody who had turned a blind eye to the atrocities committed by Putin because they were happening far away. Once vibrant towns turned to ruins, mass graves with dozens of bodies in the Kyiv suburbs, a theater full of innocent women and children sheltering, bombed, despite the giant world's children written on the roof, more than 200,000 Ukrainian soldiers killed or injured. And tonight, Putin is trying to seize on the fact that Zelensky's military appears to be in turmoil, capitalizing on a moment of intense American political dysfunction.
Yeah, so you see now you heard that, okay? I want you guys to understand how the mainstream liberal media operates, okay? So American politicians like Chuck Schumer can openly go on national television and basically say, look, if you don't give us $118 billion, right, in taxpayer funds, we're going to send your kids to war, okay? They're allowed to openly say that, but we're not allowed to hear from the guy that they claim that we're going to go and fight a war against, right? We're not allowed to hear his side of the story and whether or not he's actually really going to try to take over all of Ukraine. Is he going to try to invade NATO? Is he actually going to do all these things that the U.S. government says that he's going to do, right? Is he actually trying to negotiate peace? Okay, does he want to come to a peace agreement? You're not allowed to hear his side of the story, right? You can't hear it, okay? Tucker Carlson going over there to interview Vladimir Putin, presumably, that somehow is Tucker being a fan of Putin, okay? Instead of being an actual journalist, which is to get all sides of the story and then let the American people decide, you know, is it worth going to war to defend Ukraine against Putin, right? No, you can't do that, right? We must listen to the politicians here in the United States when all they do is just fearmonger and to warmonger and to basically extort the American people by saying that, yeah, you got to give us money or else we're going to send your sons and daughters to go die, right? And by the way, again, you can't hear from the guy that we're sending you to go fight, right? You can't hear his side of the story so that you can decide whether or not you actually want to fight this battle. No, you can't do that. Again, absolutely amazing stuff. Absolutely incredible. Okay, they don't want us to question anything about what's going on in Ukraine, including if the money is actually being spent properly, despite the fact that we have verified reports that some of the money is actually not being spent properly, despite the fact that the politicians keep telling us that, oh, no, don't worry, the money's being audited. It's being spent in the right way.
Ukraine Security Services reports that 5 people have been charged and 1 person detained for embezzling nearly $40 million intended to buy arms to support the war effort against the Russians. Security officials say that the investigation into the alleged fraud dates back to August 2022, when officials signed a contract for artillery shells worth $39.6 million with an arms firm. After receiving payment, the company employees were supposed to transfer the funds to a foreign arms manufacturer, which would then deliver the ammo to Ukraine. Instead, the money made its way to various accounts around Ukraine and the Balkans. Ukraine's prosecutor general says that the funds have since been seized and will be returned to the country's defense budget.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure with all the billions of dollars we sent to Ukraine, it ain't just 40 million that went missing. I'm pretty sure there's a lot more than that. But don't worry, you're not supposed to question it. You're not supposed to question it. Okay, they know exactly where all of the money's going. And if you question it, you're just pro-Putin, right? You're just pro-Putin. Don't question the war effort. Don't question the incentive structure that we have to fund these wars, in which the military-industrial complex gets paid, and then they turn around and they send funds back to the politicians that funded the war with taxpayer dollars in the form of campaign donations right before the 2024 election, right? Don't question any of that stuff, okay? Because if you question the bill that doesn't actually secure the border, but is supposed to secure the border, if you question that, then you don't actually really want a secure border. You're pro-illegal immigration, okay? If you question the billions of dollars that was sent into Ukraine and Israel, then you are pro-Putin, okay? Even though you want to save Ukrainian lives, and if you question the money that we send to Israel, then you're anti-Semitic, okay? That's kind of how a lot of this works. So, hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.